Cool. Alright, so we have part 3 of the queer and trans man's burdens, at least from Dexter's perspective. So, because like, they like blur into each other. I don't really know how I'm gonna address this, but alright, so I want to talk about the bottoming and being trans, um, or being submissive and being trans, or being queer, being any kind of male, but specifically being trans and being queer. One of the things I've recently been having to deal with, that I personally haven't still come to terms with, is when you identify as a man, and then you have sex with other men, um, regardless of if they're gay men, then you run into this thing of when gay men have sex, I don't know, I've noticed it's a bit different than when straight people have sex. Like there's something in I guess the carnal nature of it, because I've noticed that when a guy approaches me as a female, even if you say you like to be fucked hard, like, and there's a carnal instinct to it, it's like you have to ask to be fucked hard if you are identifying as a female, unless you already told him straight up, this is what I want you to do. But when a guy treats me just like any other man, there is this natural intensity and like roughness that is equated to it. Like there's very little sensual nature to it. Like you know, like, but it's a very rough nature. So it's like, all right, this is new. Cool. Maybe I don't know. But what it's hard is in my experience is that I have to deal with this issue of when I'm involved with males. I don't mind bottoming, but it's like I have to dissociate for that moment to just be able to let myself do it. And that's because there's like I have this constant voice in the back of my head that's like, you know, this isn't what men do. You know what I'm saying? You should be topping. You should be topping. He's topping you. He's being a real man. You know, you're taking it like a bitch. What are you doing? You're being a pussy. What's going on? What's going on? You're being a woman. What's going on? And I'm sorry if I struck someone's button when I said that woman. It's just a thought. You know, old habits die hard. But there's this thing that I've noticed with a lot of, you know, where it's a male fear, queer male fear, trans male fear, is this the issue of that bottoming issue of one of you has to be the sub. And that's the hard part is, you know, it's like you feel like, oh, I want to be the sub, but then it's like, if I want to be the sub, does that make me less of a man? You know, and it's like, I know it shouldn't, but it makes you feel like, oh my goodness, it makes me feel like I'm less than a man. And, you know, being on hormones, I don't, you know what I'm saying, to me it makes me want to have sex. It doesn't really influence which position I want to be with. You know, I don't really care. It's like as long as I'm having sex, something's happening. You know, but it's like there's this issue where it's like it's a mental roadblock. And it goes back to, like I said in the last video, and even the video before that, like really with the last video is that you in that moment, you know, you're like, oh, this is wonderful and everything, but you're thinking, you know, this isn't, you know, maybe this isn't what makes me really a man, and then you start questioning yourself, and, you know, then you're thinking, am I even, you know, am I a man, you know, or it's like, and then you start to feel that shame and the guilt, which I'll approach later, but, you know, there's a constant question of, oh man, and I've noticed that an issue with, queer men bottoming is that, if you're queer, and you appear as a male of some sort, and you want to bottom, then there's that, you know, that again, that relation to you being a female, or just being an always being a submissive. But there's this weird feeling that you get, and you know, I don't know, maybe it'll go away with time, but I don't know. And I guess that's one of the things that I guess is really hard for guys to talk about, because, you know, there's slightly on the hormones. I don't want to talk about certain things. Like I ain't trying to get emotional with certain things. Like I don't feel it. Since starting, the want to get emotional is just decreasing. So I was like, no, if it's not pretty straight to the point, I don't want to do it. But, you know, one of the things I think is really hard for some of the guys to mention is that, you know, it's like you take being a bottom. Like I know a lot of guys that I've met who can have sex with men, but nobody knows about it. It's like being on the down low, and that's something that, by saying that, if my parents ever see this, I'm gonna have to deal with that angry rant. And when I tell you about that rant, I'm pretty sure it's gonna infuriate a lot of people, but Um, you know, it's like you feel like you have to do it on the sly because if somebody will find out, then they're gonna question you, and then you're gonna be questioning yourself because you're already questioning yourself. Like, am I, like, if someone will find out, it's between me and this guy, like, oh my goodness, if someone finds out, am I less than a man? And then it's like, oh my goodness, I'm less than a man. And it's like, again, it shouldn't matter, but it's a definition of masculinity that is widely accepted that you top, and you're just like, do. And even when again with the masculinity thing is if you're on the bottom, like physically on the bottom, like what I'm saying, in some sort of missionary thing where one of you is on top and one of you is on bottom. What I'm saying? Like somebody's on top. And in this case, let's say a female partner is on top. There's that theory that if you're gonna be the one being ridden, for example, you better be topping from the bottom. And it's like, you better be controlling what's going on from the bottom. It's a constant control thing. But it's like, what if I just want to give up that control and I just want to be a bottom. And then you're just like, then, you're thinking, oh my goodness, I can't tell anyone, and then you suffer in silence. So, it's definitely been my recent struggle, is the suffering in silence of being, well, not silence anymore, but the bottoming. So, um, word to the wise, be a little careful if you make jokes with other trans men or queer men about them bottoming ever, or them ever potentially bottoming, because if they're, unless they're cool with it, they may take that into offense and then really do start to question themselves, and that's a struggle that, you don't share with other people, so then they just kind of suffer in silence, and it's not worth it. And tips for my bros out there, eh, it's hard, but if you want to bottom, go for it. I'm still trying to learn to accept it and deal with it, but quite frankly, it's just sex, or it could be sex and love. It's fine, but I mean, it's you what you do, and unless these people are all trying to get what you, shouldn't really matter. Um, Again, a lot easier to say, but um, good luck. Stay tuned for 4.